No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown for March 22nd, 2024. We are now just about 2 weeks away until WrestleMania 40. We had the show open up with Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar, a match that I initially thought was going to be part of WrestleMania, but it looks like WWE is setting up something else with these guys. It was competitive in the beginning, and before the match got started, Santos had a video package, a little promo, talking about how Rey Mysterio was his hero, but he took pity on him and did not finish the job. However, he will hurt Rey in ways that will be hard to watch. Like I said, back and forth match with these guys. Rey Mysterio went for the 619. Santos countered with a super kick, did some trash talking, and then they fought on the outside of the ring. Rey used the announce table cover as a weapon, hitting Santos with it, and somehow did not get disqualified. Like, he used an object as a weapon. No DQ. I guess that is okay. The table cover is okay. A chair, that's a DQ. Anyways, Rey then stood up on the announce table, jumped off, seated senton, sending Santos over the barricade, and then he got Santos back in the ring. But then we had a masked man attack Rey Mysterio while the referee was distracted with Santos. Santos hit the 619 and then the Phantom Driver to pick up the victory. A little insult to injury with the 619. Santos beats Rey, and as it turns out, the masked man was Dominic Mysterio. What does this mean? Dominic back in the mix against his father? Well, I think it means 8-man tag team match for WrestleMania. You see, you have Rey Mysterio and the LWO. That's 4 guys. Rey Mysterio, Del Toro, Wild, and Carlito. And you had Legado del Fantasma, which is only 3 guys. You got Santos, you got Angel, and Humberto. So if you add Dominic Mysterio in on Santos' side, you got 4-on-4 for an 8-man tag team match. That's what I'm thinking at this point. Although Jerry brought up in the chat room, maybe Andrade gets into the mix and they do a tag match with just Andrade and Rey Mysterio versus Santos and Dominic, which I suppose that is also a possibility. What would you guys rather see, the 8-man tag team match or the 2-on-2 tag match? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. And by the way, if you're not watching this on YouTube, head over to nodq.com/YouTube to head over to the YouTube channel. And I would very much appreciate a subscribe or even a thumbs up to spread the word about the video, however way you can. Anything you can do to support the channel would be very much appreciated. Now, let's move on. We had Bayley backstage with Naomi. Bayley thanked Naomi for helping her. And then Bianca Belair interrupted the conversation. Bianca, still not trusting Bayley, said that things are catching up to Bayley, and whatever happens to Bayley, she deserves it. Bianca is not so quick to forgive Bayley for the past that they've had over the last couple of years. We had a WrestleMania qualifier match. We had the OC going up against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Usually Waller and Theory are doing jobs, but in this case, OC is so far down on the totem pole that I was not expecting them to win. to any degree. Now, they did get in some offense. They did work well together. Gallows started selling his knee, but then Michin got involved. She attacked Waller. Referee did not see it. OC went for the magic killer to Waller, but Theory was able to make the save, and then Theory pinned Gallows with his feet on the ropes while Waller was grabbing Theory's feet. Match was all right. No surprise. Poor OC, like even with Michin's help, they still cannot beat the guys that are pretty much punching bags every single week. And more on Waller and Theory here in just a moment. I forgot to mention, Theory has new entrance music, just as generic and forgettable as the previous one. Basically a remix. Same thing, A-Town Down, blah, 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 A-Town Down, just slightly different style. Still no good. Def Rebel sucks. That's all I got to say. We had a little Braun Breaker video package hyping up all of his various athletic stats. My guess is they're going to wait till after WrestleMania to really start utilizing Braun Breaker on the main roster. And they also showed the clips of Breaker interacting with The Undertaker and Paul Heyman, making a big deal out of him. It was a good video package. And backstage, Naomi was telling Bianca Belair that they gotta work together. They cannot take care of Damage Control alone. And that led up to Naomi versus Io Sky. But before Io came out there, she attacked Bayley backstage and then just came to the ring for the match. Naomi got in a lot of offense. I mean, she controlled most of the match. She did her splits, splash out of the corner. Io grabbed the ropes, and then Naomi hit a big superplex. Io kicked out of that, and no real surprise here. Damage Control interfered as Naomi was looking to perhaps finish off Io. She got distracted, and then Io won with the moonsault. No surprise here. And then they continued their attack after the match. Asuka delivered the poison mist. Asuka seemed to be okay. There was talk about her possibly being injured. She was limping last Friday night, but she was out there this week. She was involved, so hopefully she's okay. And then we had Bianca Belair coming out there to try and make the save. She went for the KOD, but Kairi, she went for the KOD to Kairi, but Dakota took her down with the chop block, 4-on-2, and Naomi and Bianca were left laying. We'll see if they go for the tag team titles at WrestleMania or if Jade Cargill gets involved and it's a 6-woman match at WrestleMania, which could end up being the way it goes. They did air a Jade Cargill video package, and she is going to have statues built of her. You might not like it, but you can't deny it, said Cargill. And she is going to be on SmackDown next week. So make sure you guys check that out next week with Jade Cargill. Maybe she gets added. They make a 6-woman match, which would be good for Jade. Gets her in WrestleMania, and she's inexperienced. So being in a multi-person match will protect her, will hide her weaknesses a little bit. I would be fine with that. Maybe we get just a tag match for the championships. I mean, that's a possibility too. I suspect these women, some combination, will have a WrestleMania match just so you get an extra women's match on the show. And Bianca's got to have something, right? Like you can't just leave her off the card. Got a few super chats here. First off, shout out to Based Ash Ketchum, who sent in a $10 super chat. I appreciate that. There's the thumbs up for you. Says, yo, Aaron, I've been a fan of yours for a very long time. I love all of your content, and I was wondering if I could promote my wrestling podcast that I just started. Absolutely. Let me know what it is. Feel free to post a message in the chat room and I'll highlight it for you. Plug the podcast for you. No problem whatsoever. And thank you for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow his YouTube channel for sure. Go and click on his name, Based Ash Ketchum. Hamp Connell sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. I appreciate it. Says, today and tomorrow in history, 1999, Steve Austin gives the corporation a beer bath on Raw before WrestleMania 15. And then in 1997, WrestleMania 13 from Chicago, Steve Austin never quit against Bret Hart, which anybody that's followed my channel for a while, you know that that's one of my all-time favorite matches, maybe my all-time favorite match. And the beer bath, all-time classic, Attitude Era moment. Moving on here, we had Naomi being helped out by Bianca. Naomi's eyes were messed up from the mist. She needed water. And Tiffany Stratton came over and was just basically laughing at Naomi's misfortune. Now, maybe she's somehow involved in the mix too. Maybe it's Tiffany versus Bianca in a singles match. Maybe Naomi and Jade Cargill go for the tag titles. Like, we could get 2 more women's matches for WrestleMania, which would not shock me. 2 women's matches per night. So there you go. Maybe that's where they're going with this. Who knows? Several ways it can go, but one would think that Bianca is definitely going to be in some sort of match at WrestleMania. They're not just going to leave her off the card. It's just a matter of who she's facing at this point. We had Pretty Deadly. And by the way, real quick before Pretty Deadly, since I asked the question earlier, what should be Bianca's match? Chat room, let me know. Would you like to see Bianca versus Tiffany one-on-one? Would you like to see Bianca and Naomi go for the tag team titles? Or would you like to see Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill go up against Damage Control in a 6-woman match? Chat room, let me know which one of those 3 options you would prefer. Shout out to Building Nexus. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. I appreciate it. It says, could Tiffany be the female LA Knight? Well, as far as being the fan favorite and being a heel that gets really over with the fans, absolutely. I mean, I think she's already on her way to being a fan favorite, even though she's been booked as a heel. The fans just have naturally gravitated towards her. So they may have to go with the face turn sooner than later with her. And yeah, I could see her definitely channeling LA Knight, but the advantage she has is her age. She's in her 20s, LA Knight 40, 41, something like that. So yeah, that's definitely working in Tiffany's favor. So anyways, Pretty Deadly backstage interrupted Kevin Owens and Nick Aldis talking, and they basically issued a challenge. So Kevin Owens revealed that he has a partner for next week against Pretty Deadly. And that person, of course, is his buddy, but soon to be opponent at WrestleMania against Logan Paul in the triple threat, Randy Orton. That match will be taking place next week. And just for good measure, Kevin Owens pulled out his old punching both guys at the same time routine, which, I mean, not that we didn't need to know or make it even more obvious that Owens and Orton are winning, but yeah, Pretty Deadly looking like chumps going into next week, even more than they already were. So yeah, it's funny. Kevin Owens punches them both, but yeah, it makes Pretty Deadly look like absolute prelim guys. That match is next week, and yeah, I don't see them having Orton and Owens lose unless Logan Paul does something and costs them the match, which I guess is always a possibility. We had an interesting segment where AJ Styles was being filmed at his home. He was doing a workout routine to hype up WrestleMania, when all of a sudden we heard some honking from a car, and it was LA Knight. LA Knight showed up at the home of AJ Styles, and they got into a fight on AJ's front lawn. The police were called. We had the dash cam footage of the cop cars coming in, and they arrested LA Knight for it invading the private property of AJ Styles. But then AJ declined to press charges, and they had the footage of LA Knight in the squad car, kind of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin light type of segment. Like if you remember when Steve Austin invaded the home of Brian Pillman. Too bad we didn't have somebody have a gun pulled on them, but it's PG now, so we can't have that. Even back in the day, that angle was very controversial. I don't know if it was the house where Randy Orton lived with when Triple H invaded. I don't remember if it was the same house or not, but I'd be surprised if it was, unless it's somebody's house and they just decided to use it again. Somebody will have to do some investigation and let me know. But yeah, it was an interesting segment, something a little different, even though it has been done a couple times before. It just hasn't been done in a very long time. I had no problem with it. Sets up WrestleMania, builds that up a little bit more. It was fine. Next up, we had another WrestleMania qualifier match, to see which teams are going to try to win the spot in the ladder match at WrestleMania. We had the Street Profits against AOPP. And we also had Paul Ellering out there, Karrion Kross and Scarlett. AOPP was dominating this match. At one point, Montez Ford tried to dive over the top, but he got caught by both members of AOPP, and then they power bombed Ford into Dawkins on the outside of the ring. They continued their domination. Dawkins then tagged in, built up some momentum. Ford came back in, and then things broke down. All four guys in the ring. And then Ford, out of nowhere, got the win with the inside cradle. Not sure which AOPP guy was pinned, but Profits win. And they make more sense for the ladder match, doing the high-flying spots and whatnot. AOP taking an L here. Still not sure if we're getting any sort of match with these guys at WrestleMania. I'm not even sure if that's going to happen at this point, which is a shame because they spent a lot of TV time trying to build up this faction war between Lashley's group, the Pride, or whatever the hell they're called, and the Final Testament, Final Destination, whatever they're called. Shout out to Psycho Jet Black. Thank you, Psycho Jet Black, for the super chat. Says, seriously, what would get you to stop calling the Authors of Pain AOPP? Should they win the tag titles and go on a dominant strike and get away from Karrion Kross? I'm not sure what to say about AOP. I just have never been able to take them seriously since they were teaming up with Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick was their manager, and I feel bad that they got released, but bringing them back, I felt like they would just get lost in the shuffle. And they've gotten a few TV matches, and they're in the group with Karrion Kross, but I mean they lost here, and that we haven't gotten any match set up for WrestleMania. So it's like, why did you bring back these guys again? I'm just not feeling them at this point. I don't really know what purpose was served in bringing them back. The thing that they had to offer to the table was that they were these big, intimidating, dominating guys, but then you call them AOPP in a skit with Drake Maverick, and then you bring them back and they're just kind of there. So why? I don't know. I guess you could start pushing them all of a sudden. Maybe you can build them up again. Not sure. So this was a very wrestling heavy show. Up until this point, we didn't have any in-ring promo segments. We had a couple of backstage segments, and this was a more wrestling heavy episode of SmackDown. And then we had our final segment, which honestly was way longer than it needed to be. So we had Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes confrontation. Roman Reigns does his long entrance. Cody Rhodes does his long entrance, commercial break in between. And Reigns said that Cody was a fool, brought up the Shield history, basically tried to turn Cody against Seth Rollins. Roman brought up how Rollins turned against him when they were in the Shield. Rollins stabbed him in the back. We all remember the chair shot. And then Cody said he remembers the Shield. He remembers the first team that beat the Shield. And in case we all forgot, the last name of the team was Rhodes, making reference to, I think it was Battleground, correct me if I'm wrong, when Goldust and Cody Rhodes beat the Shield to win the tag team titles. Then Cody tried to turn it around, said he's going to raise Roman Reigns here and bring up how maybe Roman Reigns cannot trust The Rock. Like, who's really in charge? Is it the tribal chief or is it the final boss? And then Reigns used the material he used on the Pat McAfee show today. He was interviewed by Pat McAfee, and on that show, Roman Reigns called Cody Rhodes a politician, and he used the same line here on SmackDown, said, Cody makes promises but doesn't deliver, just like a politician. Why? Because he's number two. And Roman said there's nothing wrong with being number two because it's still a great spot to have. And Cody Rhodes is the greatest number two of all time. And then Cody said when it comes to WrestleMania, he's the one. And he offered a handshake. Roman Reigns declined the handshake, but did shake Paul Heyman's hand. And then they left the ring. And sure enough, Roman Reigns went back on his word that he would be alone. Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa were in fact there. They came out to ringside, but Cody Rhodes knew this was going to happen, so he had his guys there too. Jey Uso and Seth Rollins came out through the crowd, and we had a little face-off as the show went off the air. No physicality, and it was just the stare down with the six of them, and that was that. I thought it was okay, but quite frankly, I think it was a lot of filler. Like, it wasn't explosive. It was kind of lackluster, in my opinion. The wrestling on SmackDown was good. The final segment was okay, but didn't really do anything for me, like as far as adding more excitement to WrestleMania. Like, it was skippable. I hate to say that for a Roman Reigns segment, but I could have done without it and had the same level of excitement for WrestleMania. And the rest of the show, like I said, good wrestling, but there wasn't any big angle where I was like, oh my God, that was interesting. Like, I was struggling to be emotionally invested in this show. So might get some hate for this one, but I'm going C+ for SmackDown. I thought this was the weakest SmackDown show, and maybe even the weakest WWE show of WrestleMania season. I would have to go back and see what other letter grades I gave, but I feel like most Raws in 2024 have been better shows than this one. It wasn't a bad show by any means, but I just felt like it lacked any heavy angle or any really great match. I mean, it was just okay. It was just kind of there. Matthew gives it a B, but Hamp says I'm being too nice. So there you go. Some mixed opinions on it. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Says, who left first, Jimmy or Jay? Well, Jay left, and then they had the SummerSlam. No. I guess Jay was still part of the bloodline, but then after SummerSlam, Jay left and went over to Monday Night Raw. Or are you talking about SmackDown? I'm kind of confused, Building Nexus. So you have to specify what you meant by who left first. Based Ash Ketchum sent in a $20 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, Ring Rumble Report is my podcast on YouTube. Thanks, Aaron. Keep up the good work. Well, there you have it. Everyone, go check out Based Ash Ketchum over on YouTube at Ring Rumble Report. Check him out. There's the plug for you. Longtime viewer, so he probably shares some similar opinions as me. Oh, so here we go. I mean, it's a little confusing. Jimmy left, and then Jay returned at SummerSlam. I forgot already what the whole deal is here. I'm confused even more now. I just know that both guys were seemingly out, but then Jimmy returned to the fold, and then Jay left SmackDown completely. I think that's the timeline of all this. Anyways, guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Very much appreciated. I thank you guys for your longtime viewership and support. Here we go. Here's the correct timeline. Jimmy betrayed Roman. Jay joined him. Then Jimmy betrayed Jay at SummerSlam. I'm still confused about all this stuff. Okay. So we had Crown Jewel or whatever that pay-per-view was. Maybe it wasn't Crown Jewel. Whatever the hell that May show was, where the Usos seemingly split from the bloodline. And then at SummerSlam, it was Jay versus Roman. Jimmy turned against Jay at SummerSlam, and then Jay just left, went over to Monday Night Raw. Jimmy rejoined the bloodline. I think I got it right there. It's all confusing. But thank you guys for tuning in. Jimmy versus Jay is at WrestleMania. Looking forward to it. Appreciate your viewership and support. I think it was Night of Champions, not Crown Jewel. I'm so lost right now. Like, I've already forgotten. This is the thing. When you cross 40, you start to forget things. So one of those Saudi Arabia shows. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says, where is Braun Strowman? He's still injured. I think he'll be back pretty soon. Maybe after WrestleMania. I would think that he'll be back sometime in the spring. Maybe early summer, but yeah, he's been injured. He's been out of action. Should be back soon. Thank you guys for tuning in again. I appreciate it. Buy a shirt, nodq.com/merch. And we got 13 straight nights of live streaming coming up. Starting on March 31st, going all the way through April 12th. A lot of streaming coming up on the No DQ YouTube channel. So please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are subscribed, please spread the word. Tell a friend. Buy a shirt at nodq.com/merch. Say yes to No DQ. And I will see you all next time.